Welcome to the deep dive. You know that story about the Garden of Eden, the apple, the whole shebang? Well, get ready because we're diving deep into it today. There's way more to uncover than meets the eye.
I completely agree. Genesis chapter 3, it's not just some tale, It's about choices we make, the consequences that follow, and really what it means to be human.
So picture this, Adam and Eve just hanging out in paradise. But wait, there's more. A serpent, and get this, it's called out as being more cunning than all the other animals. And this is where it gets good. The serpent starts talking to Eve. Now, come on, if you were Eve, would you really fall for that?
You got to hand it to the serpent. It's got strategy. Instead of coming in with some demand, it hits Eve with a question, did God really say you couldn't eat from any tree? See? Subtle manipulation, playing right into human curiosity.
Oh, I see it. Planting those seeds of doubt, making Eve question everything. That's temptation 101.
Exactly. And it works like a charm. The promise of becoming like God, knowing good and evil, is just too enticing for Eve. Think about it. That desire for knowledge, to define good and evil for yourself, it's a very human desire. I mean, who hasn't been tempted by something they're not supposed to know?
So true. We're all natural explorers in a way, right? Always pushing boundaries, wanting to know more. But we all know sometimes our curiosity gets the best of us. And in this story, it leads to that infamous fruit. But here's the thing. Was it really an apple? I'm a little fuzzy on the details there.
It's funny how people get stuck on that detail. But if you really look at the text, it just says fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that's where the symbolism gets really interesting.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. What's the deal with this fruit? What does it really represent?
Well, we both know it wasn't about an actual piece of fruit, right? It's about crossing a line.
Yeah.
It's about getting knowledge, you shouldn't have. I think it makes you consider the boundaries we all face in life and the consequences if we choose to ignore them.
And the consequences in this story, let's just say they're pretty immediate and pretty intense. They take a bite and boom, suddenly they realize they're naked. And I don't just mean physically naked. I mean they feel ashamed, exposed, vulnerable in a way they haven't before.
It's a huge shift. 1 minute they're innocent, the next they're hit with self-awareness, vulnerability, shame, all of it. It changes everything.
It's kind of interesting how they immediately try to hide, right? Like covering themselves up. But it's not just about the clothes, is it?
Exactly. It's deeper than that. We're trying to hide from what they did, from facing the consequences. Don't we all do that sometimes? Even with little things.
Oh, for sure. We all mess up, and what do? Shift the blame, make excuses, maybe just hope no one notices.
And in the Garden of Eden, cue the blame game. Adam blames Eve. She blames the serpent. It's the classic blame game, the original one, you could say.
Makes you think, though, whose fault was it really? Eve always seems to get the short end of the stick, but wasn't Adam right there, too?
That's a question people have been asking for ages. It's easy to point fingers, but it's more complicated than that. Eve talks to the serpent, sure, but Adam chooses to eat that fruit. They both had a hand in it when you really think about it.
And like we were talking about earlier, the consequences are huge, right? Like
Right.
way beyond just leaving paradise. It's way bigger than that.
Definitely. Their actions have a ripple effect that changes everything. It's not just Adam and Eve. It impacts all of us, even now. It's like their disobedience echoes throughout human history. Talk about one choice having huge consequences.
Okay, so let's talk punishments. The serpent, doomed to crawl on its belly. Eve, saddled with pain in childbirth. And Adam, stuck with backbreaking labor for the rest of his life. I've got to say, always seemed a bit harsh to me. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, those punishments are definitely more than meets the eye. They're symbolic. Like they represent how things got messed up because of that choice. Take the serpent, cursed to crawl. God's basically condemning temptation itself, that slithering, whispering thing that gets us all sometimes. It's powerful imagery when you really think about it.
Wow, never thought of it like that before. That adds a whole new level to it. And what about Eve's punishment? Pain in childbirth, what's that all about?
Oh, childbirth, as amazing and beautiful as it is, gets tangled up in the consequences of their actions. It's a reminder that even the most natural parts of life are touched by that disobedience,
Makes sense, like a constant echo of that choice in the garden, passed down through generations. And Adam, his punishment seems especially rough. All that work just to survive.
It shows how humanity's relationship with nature changed. It used to be harmony, abundance, but now, struggle, hardship. Adam's punishment is that constant fight against the elements, the effort it takes to survive once you're out of paradise.
It's a lot to process, isn't it? Desire, consequence, survival. It's like this one story. It's like the blueprint for being human.
It really is. But here's the thing. It's not all doom and gloom. There's a glimmer of hope tucked in there. Remember that part about the serpent getting its head bruised?
Oh, yeah. Always wondered about that. What's the deal with that?
It's easy to overlook, but it's important. The serpent doesn't totally win, see? That bruising, that wound, it hints at something. Like a promise that temptation will be defeated eventually. Redemption's coming.
So even with that fall from grace, there's still hope. Something better down the line.
That's it. We mess up, we make choices that have consequences, but there's always that chance for things to be made right. It's a powerful message, and it still resonates with people, no matter what they believe or where they come from.
It's amazing, right? We think we know this story, but there's always something new to discover. So much depth hidden in there.
I know, right? And it makes you think, what's your forbidden fruit? What's so tempting that you might be willing to face the consequences?
Ooh, good question. It really makes you think. This isn't just some old story. It's about the choices we make every single day. Well, my mind is officially blown. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive. It's been amazing.
My pleasure. Until next time, remember to keep asking questions and keep exploring those stories that shape our world.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Toby, Eleanor, and our team of researchers are working hard to produce more episodes. If you value what we're doing here, please consider subscribing and sharing the word. Additionally, our podcast, RSS, and Patreon links can be found below. Listener support is what makes our work possible. Join us next time for another deep dive. God bless.